Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
How
everyone.
is everyone? Welcome to episode 52 of Floss Toss. We're so glad you're here. My name is Rachel. I am Treehouse Fiber Arts, coming to you from Grand Rapids, or Ada, Michigan, which someone pointed out to me. It's kind of ironic that I'm from Ada. I never even gave that a thought. It's not spelled the same way, but I'm from a town called Ada.
That is so funny. And is that what I put on your label?
Yeah,
Say that?
ADA. It's actually, I think it's named after a woman, a daughter of a founder, I think.
Now, I would have said that as Ada, not Ada. Is that weird?
No, I probably would have too.
Oh, no, there would have to be two D's for it to be Ada, though, right?
That would be Ada.
Oh, right. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm Sue.
Who are you?
From Legacy Fiber Arts, and I'm Knit24 on Instagram. And it's so funny when Carrie said she didn't know we had podcasts, me and Chelsea. So yes, we've been on YouTube forever as Legacy Knits. I don't know.
Something like that, yes.
Like that. So yeah, we are both double YouTubers.
Yes, you guys are. I am too. I was Treehouse Knits. I'm Treehouse Fiber Arts on YouTube. You can watch our backlog, my backlog. I'm not an hour. I'm a me. But both Sue and I have a backlog of knitting.
Now, can I interject there? Your backlog is much, you have so much good information in your videos always. My backlog, Chelsea and my backlog is just a lot of like this, almost like chatting and knitting.
It's a lot of fun, a lot of
fun. Yeah,
but you teach too. You both share a lot of information, Sue.
I guess I feel like again, I would go back and watch your backlog in a minute, where mine is like, whatever.
Well, I do have fun researching, which is really what I think this episode is going to be all about today. Might be a little different feel for us.
Yes.
But, the last 2 weeks, this is a very busy season for both Sue and my businesses. I have Treehouse Fiber Arts shop a little bit. You see behind me, we've been gearing up for the holiday season, and Sue has as well her shop, Legacy Fiber Arts, a lot of knitting stuff happening. So she's been dyeing up a storm. We've got Rhinebeck, which is the New York Sheep and Wool Festival coming up this weekend. A lot of you who watch are going to be there, as Sue is going to be there on Saturday.
So excited. Not vending. First time not vending in 3 years. Did you just get that delivered?
I just got bread delivered. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
He's been trying to perfect his sourdough. Sue is the sourdough queen.
I'm pretty good at sourdough. We might have to have a throwdown one of these days.
He's getting pretty good. He is.
I'm not. I'm very.
Yours are beautifully round, huge.
They're beautiful.
I think you could. Yours are round. Sue's are. We might have to cut some of this out now, Brian.
Brian.
I mean,
those look really good. Let me see the top.
Well,
okay, Brian, your scoring game, you might want to amp that up a bit if you want to compete with me. Other than that, it might taste better than mine.
I can't eat while it smells really good though. Thank you, Brian.
Is it hot out of the oven?
Yeah.
No, they're cool.
Well, it smells hot. Anyway, now
bread.
Yes, me too. Anyway, so
thanks a lot, Brian.
Thanks. Now I get to smell warm bread through this whole episode. No, I love that. Thank you, Brian. So anyways, yes, so you got the New York Sheep and Wool.
Sheep and Wool is this weekend. It's huge. So Chelsea, Kristen, and myself are going to be there just wandering, hopefully just enjoying the weather and being together, because the three of us very rarely get just our time. So we're really excited. Yeah, I didn't finish my sweater. Kristen is so busily trying to finish. If she finishes, she gets like knitter of the century.
Mm. This is a huge event. If you're not a knitter, it's a huge event for knitters. I went a few years ago, my first time.
I think it's the
Overwhelming.
largest in the world. I think
I
I'm
think so.
correct about that. I think it's the largest festival in the world. There's animals, there's barn upon barn upon barn. It's very overwhelming.
Mhm.
For a first timer, since we've been a lot, we kind of know where we want to be, and
Yes.
I'm very excited about it.
Every type of fiber imaginable that you could spin up in the fiber form, in the yarn form. And you just get to meet the people who make it, who raise it,
Who dye it,
who dye it, who process it, people are there to purchase the fiber, their
very fun.
shows. It's wonderful to see where it all comes from.
Yes. Can I interject one thing here that I forgot last time and I felt terrible about?
Please
When
do.
we did our pop-up shop in Vermont, we had 2 floss tossers come. And
You
I'm
did?
so sorry. I don't remember the names, but 2. And I totally forgot to talk about it last time. And it was super cool. They were,
Oh,
what you want floss toss? I was like, oh, because it's so different than the
yes.
yarn in a sense. And so thank you for coming. I'm sorry I don't remember your names.
Oh, that's so cool.
But it was fun.
Wow. Yeah, that is fun. I
Fun.
met someone too on my little thing I went to, which I will share when we get to that point.
Yes.
But anyway, so if you see Sue and Chelsea and Kristen, please say
Just
hello,
say hello
to them.
Yes, we
absolutely.
love to be chatted with, and yeah, it'll be fun.
Yes, yes, yes. So, like we said, this one's going to maybe be a little bit different. We have some things to show you, but what was it, last Wednesday? I know a few weeks ago I shared with you that I was heading to Winterthur, which is this amazing museum. It's an outdoor, how would you explain it? Let me just pull it up. Winterthur is the premier museum of American decorative arts, and it has a collection of nearly 90,000 objects that were made or used in America since 1640. And it's a 175-room house. Much of it was when the family of founder Henry Francis Dupont called it home. Winterthur is also 1,000 acres of protected meadows, woodlands, ponds, and waterways. The 60-acre garden designed by Dupont is among America's best, with magnificent plantings and massive displays of color throughout the year. It has graduate degree programs, and it has this amazing library, which my mom and I had fun going through. It's a research library, and when we were there were actual people researching. It was so cool. But anyway, yeah.
Can
So
I ask this? Is
yeah.
it DuPont? What is that company? What does DuPont do now?
DuPont. It's DuPont. So DuPont came over from France, and I believe I learned that the DuPonts that came over from France, it was supposed to take them 2 months by ship to come. I forget when it was, probably the 1700s. And it ended up taking them a whole year on a ship to come over. And they were big into farming, I believe. And they really felt that farming was the way that, like Thomas Jefferson did, that was the way that America should be. And when they got here, that's what they had, all that land. I mean, they have acres, hundreds of thousands of acres of, it's just beautiful land in Delaware.
Wow.
And and then towards the Revolutionary War, they started gunpowder, I think. It was a gunpowder foundry, and that's how they made their huge fortunes. Yeah. And I believe it's DuPont, the chemical company, eventually. So yes, it's the DuPont. And somewhere along the way, one of the DuPont family members ended up marrying someone that had a Swiss background and was from or knew of this beautiful place in Switzerland called Winterthur. It's actually looks like Winterthur, but it's pronounced Winterthur. And that's why it's called Winterthur. They named it Winterthur in Delaware. And when it finally passed down to the final Dupont, he knew that he was inheriting it eventually to turn it into a museum. So he expanded it in the, I believe, late 1800s, early 1900s. And he was a lover of needlework and textile arts.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you
can
very much.
I
Yes.
just tell you how much I love being your friend, because you had to read so much to get that information. I had to read nothing, and now I have all that fantastic information because I'm not capable of reading pages of, like, my brain shuts down. I only
Oh.
want the big facts.
Yeah.
So thank you for being my friend. I
Yeah.
love that.
Oh, my
I feel like I
pleasure.
know so much now about that place that I would not know.
Yeah, and you need to go. It is a gem. It's supposedly it's our country's 4th largest mansion. If this shows up, this is the guy that created it or made it into the museum. That is what is he? Want to get it right? H.F. Dupont, 1880 to 1969. Oops,
Wow.
cut off his head. So that's
Cut off his head.
the slick dude. You see that painting there?
Yeah.
And he was a gardener and farm manager. So he was into the gardens as well. So he took management over the entire estate in 1914, and he developed Winterthur's farmland. And he raised a prize-winning herd of Holstein Friesian cows. By 1925, Winterthur encompassed turkey, chicken, sheep, hog, and dairy farms, as well as vegetable and flower gardens, greenhouses, a sawmill, a railroad station, a post office. At Winterthur's height, what's that?
We move in now.
I know. At Winterthur's height, the property exceeded 2,500 acres. More than 250 workers tended the property and livestock. In addition to managing the farms, Dupont continued designing new areas and perfecting the Winterthur garden throughout his life. And it was beautiful. It's a very natural landscape. It doesn't feel like the British gardens where it's all the hedges and very tidy and organized. This is just, it looks like it grew from nature. It just is absolutely gorgeous. And it's wooded.
Tell me this, you can't stay there.
No.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
With all those rooms, they should have little.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in the 1920s is when he developed his passion for collecting historic American furniture, art, and decorative objects, which included the collection of the textile arts. And in 1951, the museum opened.
I find it interesting that a man curated all of this.
Yes.
I find that really interesting. That was not my image.
Well, I asked this particular conference, one of the things that we signed up for was a kind of a special behind the scenes tour where it was 4 of us, and we had a docent, a very knowledgeable docent, lead us through some special rooms on the 5th and 6th floors that the public doesn't go through. One of the rooms was his private bedroom. And, I was so curious, well, what textiles would he choose for his bedroom?
Yeah,
those
that's
had to have been special,
Yeah.
And that was interesting. And I did take some pictures of the textiles that he chose, and it's just, yeah, he just had a love for it. So when we were in that room, I said, well, did he ever try any of these needle arts? Because he had samplers above the fireplace. He had a chaise that was all kind of like I almost want to say it looked like a Bargello kind of needle point. Maybe I can pull up some pictures in a bit, but she said, there's nothing in written, to her knowledge, nothing is written that said he'd ever tried it or why he liked it so much. He just admired it.
I'm so curious where his connection started with that. Like, was it his grandmother or mother, or was it nobody? Was it just something that was innate in him?
Yeah, what appreciation, how did you get the appreciation for that to
Yeah, 'cause
collect it?
Right. And I feel like we all have ideas of where our love for anything we do came from or
Mhm.
still comes from. So, boy, that makes me so curious about him.
Right. Yes, me too. So
Read
that is
that book on
another,
his life history and then
that's
fill me
another
in.
rabbit hole that would be fun to
Yes,
go down.
all the bullet points, fill me in on. That would be great.
Yes. So he hosted a lot of celebrities, famous people, including Jackie Kennedy, who, when she took over her role of overseeing the decoration of the White House, when she took over as First Lady, she actually visited Winterthur to get decoration ideas with her designers and toured the rooms and really replicated some of the ideas from the rooms for the design of the White House when she lived there. And
It's
it was, yeah, it was one of the exhibits going on at the moment at Winterthur.
So I feel like that's where like all these rabbit holes form, right? It's like now I want to go look at pictures of the White House while she was there
Yes.
and see
Yeah.
like what she pulled inspiration from.
Yeah. My mom says she remembers, I think it was on CBS or something. She did a big tour of the White House and they had that playing at Winterthur in the museum, in the gallery, the actual tour. She said as a kid, she remembers sitting down to watch that. It was a big special.
I bet you
And
we could YouTube that.
we probably could. You're right.
Wow,
You're
that
right.
is so interesting.
So that's just kind of the overview of the amazing place. If you live within driving distance of that place, you need to get there. And I know I did receive some texts or some emails from you folks out there saying, "Oh, I live nearby. You're gonna absolutely love it there." And I did meet a really nice lady who was sitting next to me and my mom at a table during a break, and she so nicely just said, "I think I know you. I think I watch you on my TV." I think is how she put it. It was
so
so
nice.
cute. And I got a picture with her. Oh my
Oh,
gosh, she had such beautiful, oh my gosh, the bag she made out of blackbird fabric. And oh my word, she just had all of the, here, I'll pull her up here, Judy Boyce. She was from Maryland. There she is.
nice.
I know,
So
sweet.
fun.
She was so nice. Here she is. That she stitched. That was a cute story. That let me see if I can pull it up bigger. That's just something she stitched. That was the center of a huge, huge sampler. She stitched that much and she was like, "There's no way in heck I am stitching this whole thing. It's going to be turned into a beautiful project keeper kind of thing."
And it's beautiful.
I
Oh
know.
my goodness.
I know. And she's also a quilter. Behind that is a really pretty project bag that she had quilted. And
So
yeah.
was there actual stitching going on there?
No, not really. I didn't see many people. I maybe saw one person with stitching.
So nice.
This was purely a very, intellectual. Let me just tell you a little bit about the itinerary. It was over 2 days. It was called The Needle's Eye, and I is spelled the letter I, like me, I, stitching identity. And it was over 2 days. And some of the topics included the keynote by Marla Miller. She kind of talked about the overall, what stitching identity means to us. And these are all people that, if you were in the know when it comes to textile history and research, you would be like, oh, I mean, these are big wigs. Then we had Searching for Africans and Their Needlework in the World History of Embroidery. That was Kelly Barnes. She's a PhD candidate at the University of Delaware. We had The Life of Martha Edlin. This is Trisha Wilson Guyan, who is owner of Thistle Threads in Arlington, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
And I will dig deeper on all of these because each talk was so fascinating. we talked about, oh, then we had some student presentations. So I mentioned briefly how there are 2 master's programs at Winterthur on textile conservation and textile research. It's amazing.
I feel like you need to go.
Who
Brian,
knew? Who knew? If I didn't even know this was an option. At the
I
time, I wouldn't
know.
have probably done it anyway, but
no, I
when I
feel like
was
it's this
deciding.
time in your life kind of thing.
they're all so young too. I
But
mean, it's
but
wonderful
that's
to
so
see.
cool.
It was. I mean, I was. Yes, there are young people in
That
the midst of this. It is not, a dying thing.
I
Like,
love that about
love that.
remember when we entered the yarn industry. I remember that was the part that drew me in. There were people Chelsea's age.
Yeah.
Like Chelsea had just started, and and young, I think we've talked about this before, young, like
Mhm,
elementary school kids. Oh my gosh,
mhm.
they're fascinated when you're working on anything.
That's
They're
true.
like, what are you doing? It's so cool.
Yeah.
So what did they show? Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
Well, yeah, yeah. So the just to overview briefly, and I'll dig deeper on future episodes because it's so worth it. But like the Kelly Barnes, the PhD candidate from University of Delaware, searching for Africans in their needlework. I mean, she really she showed samplers done by
Oh,
African American girls, and she actually showed that when they came over from Africa, when they were enslaved and shipped over to our country, they were already needleworkers. And she actually proved by showing a map of Africa and showing different tribes and groups within Africa, the different types of needlework that they did, and had pictures. And I mean, it was fascinating. It was so cool. The talk, go ahead.
I was going to say, did you read the book? I can't remember the name of it. I read it like 3 times because I loved it. It was about slavery, but one of the women was making a quilt, and she hid things in the quilt, and every night she would hoist it up to the ceiling. I'm only remembering bits and pieces because I have terrible retention when I read, but everyone's screaming the name of the book.
Put it out there, somebody down.
Yes, you all know it's a really difficult book to read. It's really sad. I was so drawn to the quilting aspect of it, like the African quilts. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And a few people talked briefly about the All That She Carried book that just recently came out, about the little bag that is on display. I don't know what museum had it on display.
I'll have to write this down because
that has the I'll put a picture of it here, but has the bag that one of the ancestors stitched in the descendants of her family line. And it's a popular book that's out right now, and they had for sale there. But then they had the student presentations. Well, okay, so back to so that was the Kelly Barnes who spoke about the Africans and their needlework. And then the life of Martha Edlund, that was another fascinating story of a strong woman, and how samplers played a role, and how you learned about her identity through her samplers, and how these women, you just learned so much. That just uncovering that sampler led you into this rabbit hole of learning about the life, the identity of this woman. And the stories of these women are incredible. They were not just women who sat around, these wealthy women. You think, oh, these wealthy women, all they did was stitch their little samplers. No, a lot of times these women, unfortunately, the men they took off, they died, terrible things happened. These women had to pick up the pieces and keep things moving forward somehow. Take care of their families.
Just listening to you makes me want to literally run, get fabric, and start a sampler that will identify me. Doesn't it? Like
my
It makes me not care about ones that not care, but not the desire to do one that's it just inspires me to design something only that's not to sell, just that this is who I am for my kids.
Well, yes. When I left there, I thought to myself, why are we not at the very least making sure we're naming on our, putting on our samplers, our name, and writing on the back the date and what we were doing when we were doing the sampler. Like at least that's what our ancestors will care about. And immediately I thought, I need to get back and push through on my samplers, like the Fruits of the Spirit sampler with all of my lineage on it, or my Jacob sampler that I'm going to put all the names on, you know, and create like a junk journal with all the ancestry. And
it's funny because always during difficult times, I am either stitching or knitting. And like, I think of when Dave's mom was passing, I worked on this. Well, I will never forget that that's what I was doing during that time. Like for me, a lot of my stitching and knitting, it used to be just stitching. Now it is knitting, marks times in my life.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that is important to write down. Why is it so hard to put down what we're doing and actually write about it? And keep, you know what I mean? For me, it's the act of putting it down and recording seems like so much.
I don't know. I think it's different for people. Like for some people, they're perfectionists and they don't want people to know it was them, if there's a mistake, you know, or some people they're like, I'm done. I don't want to look at this thing anymore. You know, I don't know, but whatever the case, that's one thing. And then the other thing is, don't worry about your mistakes. We, during a part of our special behind the scenes tour with our docent and just 4 of us, one of the individuals that I met during that tour, a woman who was with me on that, was a younger lady who is, she's doing her dissertation on one of the Duponts. I'm killing this if you're watching, because I know we follow each other now on Instagram, and I know she knows about this podcast. I'm going to kill it, but she's doing, I think, her dissertation on Victorine, who was the Dupont who made Winterthur into the museum. His daughter was named Victorine, and she created samplers, and she's studying her and her life. And so it was so amazing to walk around with her and the docent. But one of my favorite moments was going into, the 5th and 6th floors are dark because they have coverings on the windows, this film, so nothing over time fades more, that kind of thing. So the docents you walk into a room, the docent has this remote, they push the button and the lights go up, and then you're just like goosebumps, like all this textile stuff and this wood. And the first time that happened to me, we were in this room and all these samplers. I guess I've never seen a sampler in person. Like, I'm geeking out here. I'm sorry if you're not into sampling, you're watching this show, but I literally got goosebumps because it was, this was like 300-year-old sampler in front of me. It was like all of this, I don't know, it just felt like all this generational energy coming at me. And
absolutely
so old and incredible. But with her, we go into, it was the room of Victorine's mother, Dupont's wife, and she had this beautiful bedroom, and it kind of jutted out the side of the house, and supposedly she selected that room because she could see people coming out of the window.
Totally understand.
Totally get it.
Totally understand.
And the lights went up, and over the fireplace was this gorgeous oil painting of her holding Victorine as a baby, and I heard my new friend just like, she was just like, I've seen that painting, and this is like for the real one, you know. She just got all verklempt and excited to see it in person. It was so fun. So she was just adding knowledge as we were going. But back to another thing that I realized when we were in a part of the tour was going into the back area where only the students get to go, and they had all these samplers that are in the drawers they pulled out that were from when the historian of the Black samplers, the African American samplers were, and they were out, and we got to look at some samplers up close. And I had my phone and I put it on magnification, and her and I were kind of looking at the stitches trying to decide, is that over 2 or over 1? That's so tiny. And when I did that, I was seeing so many just mistakes, so many, but I couldn't see them when I was looking at it. And it was like, oh my gosh, what am I worried about? At first I was like, oh my gosh, little did they know 300 years from now, there'd be someone with an iPhone on magnification. I mean, can you imagine? And then I was like, oh my gosh, who cares about these silly mistakes I'm making? That's not what's important.
That is exactly how I feel. That whole perfection piece for me is just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it sucks so much creativity out of the process.
Yeah.
If that's your goal. I mean, some people are like that, and that's just who they are, and they love it.
Right.
And I always think like, wow, that is so great. But if it's not who you are and you don't, let it go. It's not who I am. I mean,
Nope.
I know what I'm okay with and what I'm not. And most things I am.
Yep.
So tell me if there is a big difference between the samplers of the African Americans versus the other samplers. Because in my mind, I have one thought of the difference, but I'm curious.
Well, the ones we saw, no, because they were forced to make America. They were forced. And I will tell you, it wasn't nice what we saw. The one we saw, they were forced to write things that were not nice, like forgive me. And I might have it, it was not a kind phrase. They were forced to write on their sampler, like, forgive me, God, for being a terrible person because I'm of this color. Yeah, it was of the time, and it was terrible.
So these weren't samplers that they brought with them. These were samplers that were created while they were here.
Yes, we saw
so
samples. They were put into schools for, I think they were called Negro schools at the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking in my phone here if I can see when I was in that particular room. One of the samplers here. I know I'd have one, but yeah, it was disappointing to see that, to be honest.
Yeah, that's really sad because I pictured, because I think when I looked at the quilts, they were just bright and just full of movement. And that makes me so sad.
I mean, this is the one that we looked at with the fine, with our magnifier. And when you look at it, it looks like it's just cream and green, dark green.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there is some of them are pink though in the petals.
Okay.
And that leads me to think that some of the dye lot did not fade and some did into the cream. So I think this originally was all dark green and pink. I think she picked really bright colors, but I don't know, in an effort to maybe I should just read what she was forced to write. Should I mean, is that a bad thing to do?
No, it just makes me sad.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. She was forced to stitch this. We love the Lord, he came to save, poor Negro from the sinner's grave. Though we are black and mean and vile, Lord Jesus, on poor Negro smile. We love him and we would not break the lean command our Savior spake, but pray him by his precious blood to make us humble, faithful, good.
That just makes me feel sick.
And me too. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Do I
Well,
take that out?
No, I think it's important information because I had no
know.
idea of that. And I think it's
I
important
know.
information. It's just sad and not okay. And,
Yeah.
it really hits me when like being a creative, when you're forced to do something, just
I know. This
doesn't
was
allow them to be who they were, which is so sad because that's what creativity is to me.
This was Lucy Davis Freetown. Oh, this is Lucy Davis. This was done when she lived in Freetown, Sierra Leone, January the 2nd, 1843.
So you know how in today we all have our graph paper and we all have a chart to follow. Like they probably had nothing, right? They probably were just sitting down and stitching.
No, they actually did have something to follow from their teacher. And yeah,
Oh.
the teacher would have, a lot of times the teacher would have, I think, like a specific template, like
So
different.
like a grid, so they would know.
Yeah, and I'll show you my little rabbit hole that I ended up going on. And I found another sampler from the same school, and they have a lot of similarities. So I think that every school had a template kind of that they would follow, and then the students did their own little
Okay.
to make it their own, which it's kind of good to know what the template is, because it's the things that they did on their own that help you identify what
They were.
maybe is different about the girl. It helps you understand the girl more.
And we keep saying the girl, boys never were part of this ever.
No, I think boys, there were boys, but I think they were
Okay.
far and few between, because they did say to us that there were some boys, but we didn't talk about boys. It was mostly
Okay, we
about
only talked about the girls.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically this 2-day conference, we had speakers for half of the day. And then the other part of the day where you could select different workshops. So Mom and I did the behind the scenes tour, which was amazing to go so one-on-one with these really, really smart people to see this stuff. And then we did some tours and of behind the scenes kind of things. So not behind the scenes like touring the museum, but we did it was called a conservators tour. So we actually got to go into the conservation room and we met with the students and the director where when they receive things into the museum and they're dirty or whatever, they showed us how they clean them and how they preserve them with the chemicals if they need to, or not chemicals, but you know what I mean? Like it's so chemistry like, and then what materials they use to roll them up and store them and categorize
With my quilts.
I know my mom, we were all asking questions and then we talked to the pest guy. Oh, he was fascinating. He had all kinds of little pests. The big thing there on the East Coast is like a carpet beetle, whereas by me here in the Midwest, it's the moth. I'm assuming it's the carpet beetle by you too then.
Yeah, I got to look that up.
Yeah, but anyways, he was fascinating, and they talked about the first thing they do is put stuff in the freezer too. We talked about that with yarn, the freezer. So they have a medical grade deep freezer that they put, like a sampler comes in and if it's iffy, they throw it in the freezer for 24 hours or whatever.
Well, think about it, like really for them to take in things, that's really a danger to what they have there. If there is like,
yes,
that's a huge thing. Like,
yes, huge thing. And not only do they look out for the pests, the carpet beetle being, I think, the number one thing, they look out for the pests that the carpet beetle also likes.
So is it big, the carpet beetle?
No, it's really little, but it does a lot of damage. It looked like moth damage, as well. And it really goes for the wool carpets or wool tapestries, the wool, the tapestries hanging over the beds or the curtains. Yeah. And so they have that, and they have, of course, a little mice issue that they always take care of. So, boy, he's on top of that. And then we, of all things, we had a conversation with he's a lighting guy. Who would have thought a lecture, a museum lighting guy. I am so glad this guy found Winterthur to live out his passion. I mean, he talked to us about the 3 different kinds of light, and we only see the one kind. We got to get rid of the other 2 because that's what damages. And I'm just going to try. Let's just try and share the screen because I want to show you. He showed us a textile, and I'm going to just have to do some fancy editing on this if it doesn't work nice for me. So the top is the fabric that they inherited. That white color there is cream stripes. It's got the gold. The bottom with the pink is what it used to be.
Wow.
Yes. So they did not realize that's what it used to be. I believe the story is they received the top version. They were told that they needed to replace, or they needed to create a fabric that looked just like that because they needed to reupholster a chair or something that matched it. So they did. And in the meanwhile, up in the attic, they found the original fabric folded somewhere. And they realized that it didn't look like that originally. I think they said that I don't know if I'm correct, but I think this might have been from Dupont's wife's room. I don't know why that's ringing a bell, but so it might have, someone said it was in a room for 40 years, that an untreated window, room, just sitting there. And that's what happened.
Oh yeah.
That's from sunlight.
Oh, sunlight destroys, it eats fabric, it destroys it. I know.
Look at that, the dyeing.
Yeah.
So he talked about that. And then this towel was just folded. That was the towels that had the Dupont, CR Dupont. I don't know what her first name was, but those were her embroidered or her monogram towels. They were just folded and laying on a wooden shelf.
Wow.
And then behind it, I believe, is an actual drawer bottom that had embroidery on top of it. And the embroidery marked the wood or something like that. But see, that's
That
just
makes
over
sense.
time. Yeah. And I just liked that one. So I took the picture. Okay. So anyway.
Oh, how inspiring.
Yeah, it was really amazing. Okay, stop share. We're back.
Okay, we're back. Still
Okay.
recording.
I did it. Like, oh.
Good.
Okay. Okay. There we go. So, yes. So while we were in that conservator, where the bugs were and watching the lady vacuum, they had a little vignette on the side, as they did in a lot of the rooms. That was an area they were just kind of cross-selling their latest books that were out, or the exhibition booklet for The Needle's Eye. That's their latest exhibition that they had out in the gallery. They had a little booklet, and on the cover of the booklet were 2 samplers, one of the African-American samplers and one sampler underneath it. And I just was looking at it and I was like, oh, that says Mackinac on it. And I live in Michigan and we have Mackinac Island, and it's a weird name. It looks like Mackinac, and most people who aren't from Michigan say Mackinac, and it's Mackinac pronounced. It's a Native American name, I believe. And so while I was sitting in there, I snapped a picture of it because I snapped a picture of the book. I know I did. I sat there and I was like, that's weird. I can't forget that because I want to get the book then, because I want to know more about it. And so then the next day went on and I picked up the book, and then I came home and I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to look up that sampler. So last week when I was home, I looked it up, and I mean, it led me down a whole bunch of research, and I ended up in my hometown.
Can I ask you this? Like, when you say, I think people would be curious about this, and I don't know. When you say I looked it up,
Yeah,
how
right.
do you look it up? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So what I did is I will pull up the sampler right now. So let's go back to share.
I will tell you all, Rachel and I talked about this for like 5 minutes yesterday because we wanted to talk about what we wanted the podcast to look like. but I didn't want her to fill me in on a lot of stuff because I wanted this conversation to be fresh. So I have been thinking about this since we talked about it. I could not wait for this conversation. Look at
Okay.
that.
Okay, so that's the sampler right there. Can you see it really well?
Really well.
Okay, so that was the sampler that I saw, and it said Sophie Bailey, Mackinac, and it says January. I think that might be French, maybe
Oh, I was wondering
Janvier.
what the next word was.
Yeah, it says Janvier something,
It's
21.
so beautiful. It's so
And
beautiful.
1828. And I was like, oh my gosh, is that Mackinac or Mackinac Island or Mackinac City? What is that? And so the first thing that I did was I thought, well, I know everything that I took pictures of, I made sure that I clicked on the little side caption they had. And this sampler was in the gallery. On the last day, Mom and I went through the gallery and I took a picture of everything and then the little card next to it. So basically what this whole process ended up doing before I get into the sampler is it made me realize why I enjoy samplers. Why, the question, like, why do we even bother samplers? And I get that a lot, like from people who aren't really into needle arts. It's like, okay, you see one sampler, like, who cares? There's alphabets on them, like, what's the big deal kind of thing. Why replicate them? Why stitch somebody else's sampler? What does it do for you kind of thing? And this whole last couple of days is a perfect example of why I enjoy this. Okay, so what it said Sophie Bailey was 20 years old. So that's pretty old for doing this, right? She was 20 years old, of French Ottawa parentage. And Ottawa is a Native American. It's like Ottawa in Canada, the province.
Yeah.
But it can be spelled Odawa or with the T's.
Okay.
But she was of French Ottawa parentage. Her dad was French, her mom was Ottawan. And training to be a teacher when she worked her sampler under the instruction of her adoptive cousin and teacher, Marianne Schindler Fisher. Sophie, the daughter of French Ottawa woman Bede Weiwei, and in parentheses, they had Angelique McGulpin, and fur trader Joseph Bailey. Sophie also was the adopted daughter of powerful fur trader Madame Magdalene Laframboise.
Wow.
In whose home Sophie learned to stitch. Okay, so there's some big names in there, but first of all, Madame Magdalene Laframboise, a powerful fur trader woman.
I know, that's what I was like, whoa.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, who is this lady? So that's the first person I searched. So this is Magdalene Laframboise. I pulled her up, and this is a depiction from descriptions of her. Mm-hmm. She was one of the most successful fur traders in the territory of the Northwest Territory. And she actually, her and her husband actually founded along the Grand River. Now I live outside of Grand Rapids, which is the Grand River, the rapids of the Grand River, a bunch of fur trading posts all along the river. The biggest one being in Ada, which is where the Thornapple and the Grand River meet, which the Thornapple is literally like less than a mile from my house, and Ada, which is the center of it all, and Lowell and Felsberg Park, which is where I went to that art festival a few weekends ago. I talked about that was huge. So, I mean, she's from here. Her and her husband created all of that fur trading through here. She, her story is quite amazing. I mean, we can read on. She was quite her father, I believe, was a chief Indian, and she was half and half, Ottawa and French. Her husband died early on in their marriage. A lot of what I've been learning is through the fur trade, the French wanted the beaver fur for the hats that were very, very in style. And the Native Americans liked a lot of the other things that the French were able to give them. So they wanted to trade with the French. And so the furs would be collected by the Native Americans. The French would come through, make the trades. They would trade along these rivers. And then Madame Laframboise, she would trade because she knew the languages. So a lot of these fur traders that were French, that came from French Canada and France, would marry these Native American women because they could speak the language. It wasn't considered a true marriage, a legal marriage, if a Frenchman married a full-blood Native American. You didn't have to count that as a marriage, but it could be counted as a legal marriage if they were half European, half Native American, which she was. So her marriage was considered legit. She ended up, I think it was like 10 years into her marriage to her husband. They were on the shores of Lake Michigan. She was a very devout Catholic, her and her husband. And they were on the shores of Lake Michigan. Her husband was kneeling to pray, supposedly, and an Indian, Native American, I should say, shot him dead. And she was, buried him and took over the business and ended up making a lot of money and is thought to be the first woman millionaire of the United States.
Wow.
And yes, so she actually, so that was, I wanted to learn more about her, and because she's so connected to our area. She actually, I found, ended up selling, when she retired, she actually fought against John Jacob Astor's fur company and was one of the only individuals that could stand up to his monopoly. And when she decided to retire, it was on her own terms. She ended up actually selling her business to the founder of our community, who is Rix Robinson, and he developed our area, and we have Robinson Road just down the street, and everything is Rix Robinson. His grave is around here. But Magdalene Laframboise is actually buried on Mackinac Island under the altar of the church. And you can go to her home on Mackinac Island. It's now a bed and breakfast hotel kind of thing. And she's beloved big time. But Madame Laframboise actually adopted our sampler maker. So we got to go back to our sampler. So Sophie Bailey, so we got to go back to our sampler. So Sophie Bailey is 20 years old when she stitches this, right? And Sophie's dad is Joseph Bailey, and Sophie's mom is an Ottawa woman named Bede Wayway, but her American name, Angelique McGulpin. So, I don't know. That's interesting.
So
Sophie's dad was this fur trader, Joseph Bailey. His family is also a huge fur trading family. He comes from a line of fur traders, I believe, all from France, originally French Canadian. He just takes over that fur trading family business. They also marry into these Native American women tribes, and information about him. Let me see if I have him on here, actually.
what was his name?
Hey, he is Joseph Bailey.
I don't see him up there.
No, I don't. I printed him out. But he is quite a character. He is married 3 times. they think maybe 4 times. They think his first marriage was actually to a full-blood Native American, and it isn't counted. But in his second marriage, he is married to this Angelique who helps him tremendously with his business. She is basically his voice, and the tribes love her. They trade with her. He gets what he needs. I mean, without these Native American women, they would not be able to make their trades. So they're really the communicators for the fur traders. Anyway, they end up having 3 kids, and Sophie's the 3rd child. They have a son, they have a daughter, and then they have Sophie. And Sophie, what happens is 2 years, I think Sophie's like 2 years old, and the parents end up divorcing. And I believe what happens, when you read through kind of what's going on, I think that her dad is just done with Angelique. He doesn't need Angelique anymore because his business now is shifting to a different area, and he ends up marrying, I believe, a child of a business person that he needs to marry to acquire some sort of holdings for development in a new area. It looks like it's a kind of a business deal. He ends up having lots of kids with that person. So he's got a lot of descendants with that individual. And it's not a Native American, I don't believe. But anyway, what happens when Sophie and her 2 siblings end up with their parents divorced is the kids get split up. I believe the older brother is sent back to Angelique's clan or tribe and becomes a medicine man in the tribe.
So interesting.
I know. I believe her sister, that's a bit older than her, goes to school in Montreal. And it says Sophie is adopted by her father's good family friend, Magdalene Laframboise, the fur trader from Mackinac Island. And so that's how Sophie gets to Mackinac Island, with Laframboise. So it sounds like she just lives up there and leaves her mom and family. I don't know how often they're connected anymore. I don't know that part of the story. So she goes up to that school, and Madame Laframboise she truly believes, from what I've read, she believes that every child, Native American, any color, race, creed, deserves an education. She uses her money and her clout to make sure that happens. She is very, very religious as well. So she creates a school and takes in the Native children, any children. She teaches them reading, writing, stitching clearly. She hires a teacher. The teacher from Wisconsin comes from Wisconsin territory. And I don't know if you can see what I'm holding up here. Can you see?
I can't because it's so small. I think if we
Yes.
don't have the sampler showing.
So what's interesting is I decided, I should see if there's any other Mackinac samplers out there. So I just did a quick search to see if there's any other samplers. And I found that there is a sampler, E.I. Fisher, Mackinac. And let's see if I can. Okay, there.
So
now let's come back to this. So this is another one. Now I wish
So
I could.
similar.
It's so similar.
So what's
this,
missing?
how we were talking earlier about, how do they just start stitching? So this is another sampler done. This is done 8 years earlier. This is 1820. Our Sophie's was done 1828. Sophie did an alphabet. She did a phrase, looks like maybe by the Pope.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Pope.
Yeah, Pope. Pope
Well,
said
and
it.
those flower tables at the top weren't the same.
Mm.
They look like they were more like crowns at the top.
Yeah. I wonder if I could get,
Butterflies are better in this one than they were on hers.
let's go like, boom, there's Sophie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Well,
Sophie's
maybe they
better.
weren't crowns. Why did I think they were crowns? Maybe that's the butterflies I was looking at.
There's Sophie's butterflies, and there's her butterflies are a little more natural looking.
Yeah.
Sophie's are a little rounder.
Well,
Sophie
it's
was
also Sophie is incredibly symmetric. Like if you could cut that down the middle, well, hers is
Mhm.
too. Well, no, I mean, they're not the same heights, a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, how could I put them together? I can't.
Oh,
Now
wow.
we're really.
It's very cool though. It's very cool.
Yeah, see, this has the queen and king or whatever you want to call them.
I would
That's
say probably because of Sophie's age, hers appears a little more precise.
Uh-huh. One other thing I want to point out down here, do you see that dot when I do that?
Yep.
Okay. Down here, this is all I believe supposed to be the same color green, but over time, and I saw this on a lot of the old samplers, this shows you different dye lots and how it has faded.
Yes.
Isn't that cool? Like the different dye lots all faded different times.
Mm-hmm.
It all looked the same color at one time.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
You can see it. Sophie's, she must have used the same, I don't know. It's just better. Her stitching, she probably, I don't know, maybe she did she did the across one leg and back and forth. I don't know.
I don't know if it's just the photograph, but to me, there's more precision in hers than the other one. I don't know why I feel that way. It's just like, when I look at it, that's what I think immediately.
Maybe it was better taken care of too, or stored in a darker place.
Yes, for sure.
Those flowers could have been red or pink in E.I. Fisher's. But E.I. Fisher, of course, I had to learn a little bit about her. She actually, her mother was sent over to be the school teacher at Madame Laframboise school. Yeah, and this is a picture of E.I. Fisher. Well, I guess I could scroll up because didn't they have a picture of her? Oh, I want to look down here. Well, here, Elizabeth Therese Fisher stitched the sampler at the age of 10 while living in Mackinac. So she was only 10 when she did this, whereas Sophie was 20.
Yeah.
Inscribing it with her birth date. She was born in, I never know how to say that, Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin in 1810. Fisher was the daughter of Scottish fur trader Henry Monroe Fisher and Mary Ann Schindler, daughter of Mackinac fur trader Therese Lassière Schindler. In 1824, at the age of 14, Elizabeth married Henry S. Baird. The couple relocated to Green Bay, Wisconsin, where Brian is from, the bread guy who brought in my bread. Where Henry Baird became the state's first practicing attorney. Fisher's half-sister was Jane Fisher Roulette Dousman, who married Hercules Dousman and lived in Via Louis, Prairie du Chien.
You know what this makes me want to do? It makes me want to find one from my area.
Oh my gosh, Sue, well, I did find one from your area. I found so much from Connecticut. It's not even, so much. Hartford, in fact.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do this because I feel like it's an easy way to learn a lot of information if you can zero in on like one sampler. There's so much information.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how cool. And so since then, like on Facebook, I'm part of the our local history society. And the day after I discovered, the Mackinac Island fur trading connection, there was a post, it's Native American women in history, Native American Women Day or something. And they showed the gravestone of Angelique McGulpin in our cemetery. That was Bede Wayway. she's buried in our cemetery. And then like yesterday, I am on Facebook and the library is like, come on October 20th, we will be having a lecture series on fur trading along the Grand River in the 1800s. So now I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go to that lecture and learn about that and how. And so what happened was Rick Robinson, the guy who founded the town of Ada, that he ended up, what happened was the French didn't really need beaver pelts anymore for their hats because it became kind of out of style. And then the trading kind of stopped, and Rick Robinson ended up selling his portion of the land that Madame Laframboise gave to him, or sold to him, I should say, and to the state of Michigan. And it became a state and took away, gave some land to the Native Americans, but it was bad for the Native Americans. And it was just bad for the Native Americans. But Rick Robinson did try and fight for the women to get the right to vote. He lost. He in some ways he was trying for good things, but he, he's human, and he tried to make some good things happen. Some of the things he did didn't help some people, and lots of history, man. It's interesting.
It's just so interesting how that
Mhm.
one little sampler is just a wealth of information about
Exactly.
so many things. It's so much more. Wow, that was just me sitting there.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, stop share. I'm back.
It's just so much more than a sampler. And I do love making samplers like the ones I have. Like I do really enjoy, but I also have this need to create history.
Yes.
I think that's true of a lot of people, history within our own family. And how do you do that? And
Well, I am feeling better though about taking these replicated samplers if I twist and make them my own, because that's what they were doing. Look at the two samplers I showed you. They had so many similarities, but they're different.
yeah.
So
it's very interesting. It keeps bringing me to the pandemic one I made for Charlie. Like,
mhm.
I guess what I think too is to make something with an intention. I enjoy it so much more when there's an intention behind it.
Yeah.
Like that flew off my fingers, because it was to commemorate this horrible time that people were considering this horrible time, but to commemorate this beautiful life that was born during this time.
You're
And
so right.
so I feel
Mhm.
like it's a way, and if you can't create your own, it's a way to intentionally pick samplers that have meaning to you, that you can then somehow transfer personally your own experience. Does that make
Yeah.
any sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Not just get a sampler because it's a sampler, like more
Yeah.
like what, and I think we've done that over time, like with Jacob sampler, like our
Mhm.
intention with that, and even the houses. What is that one we're doing that I forgot
Now,
about?
is it the
Anniversaries of the heart.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like to somehow incorporate, and even,
Yeah.
we all do it. There's a cat, but I don't have a cat, so I'm going to put a dog there, or
Yeah.
just
Make it your
little,
own.
yeah.
Absolutely. Even if it's just putting your initials on it, for Pete's sake, you could, it's, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. And while we were there, we also did a little craft. They had an opportunity to do some making, and Mom and I decided on this strawberry, a beaded strawberry. And it ended up also being so much more than a little beaded strawberry. Penelope Minner, she was our teacher, and she is part of the Iroquois Six Nations culture, the Haudenosaunee. The strawberry is considered a gift from the Creator. We give thanks to the strawberry as it is a symbol of health, blessings, and thanksgiving with deep roots in our creation story. For all these reasons, as well as their beauty, functionality, and saleability, strawberry pincushions have long been made by Haudenosaunee bead workers. Yeah, so she talked about her culture, and it was just a fabulous way to incorporate her
Wow.
culture into the bead. Yeah, so I put it in my, it was just perfect in here, and I started it. And my little, it just started getting the beads on it. It was just such a nice, nice little
I love
project. I got that far on it.
it. I love it.
No.
Wow. It just sounds like, first of all, you were meant to go to this thing because it's so you.
I
Like
love
it
it.
might have just like stamped Rachel all over everything.
I'm
'Cause
so
it-
glad.
Screams to who you are.
No.
Amazing. It's amazing. And I so appreciate the transferring of knowledge because I have to say, when there's too many words involved, my brain shuts down and I start hearing like mwah, and it's so interesting.
I mean, I just spoke like about 1/1000th of what I can talk about. So I hope I don't bore you all, but my hope is just now what I'm going to do is just pick a little something each time we meet, and I will share. I'll dig a little deeper. I was contemplating maybe doing a little blog or something, but I kind of like just doing a vlog style more than the writing.
Yes. Well, and
So-
honestly, it is so inspiring to hear. And I would encourage people to like find like experience this for yourself locally and
Yes.
see what you come up with, because I am not a historian at all. I've never really, like you are a historian to your core. It's who you are. It is. It's so
on
cool.
not on a like I don't
No, but
on
just
an interested level.
it's where you
but
go, right? It's where you go. And I've never really taken the time, and I do feel like I'm so inspired because I live in the textile like
So
town of the year. And like Rockville, like the town I grew up in, which is no longer really Rockville, but I refuse to change its name. Rockville, Talcottville, they're all like mills, and I've never taken the time to learn. And I feel like I finally have the space to do that.
mhm.
So it's very inspiring. And I agree.
It is. It's
that?
so inspiring. Like just walking around, I was taking pictures of, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is 200-300 years old.
It's gorgeous.
I want to make that. I want to stitch that.
Gorgeous.
That's just so fun. These
And
people were colorful.
There's something about seeing and talking about this too. It doesn't even have to exist. You can create, it feels like it's given us a freedom to say,
Mhm.
oh, it doesn't have to be this. It can be this. It's
Mhm.
more to express who you are.
Absolutely.
You know?
I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we wanted to do? I know before we close, we did want to share, there is one exciting thing that is going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. We have a little sneak peek because we do not want to spill the beans yet.
No, it's
So
really fun. I'm super excited.
I am so excited. So excited.
It's kind of like, it is definitely a collaboration of sorts.
It is a huge collaboration of sorts. Yeah. Huge. And once it's all tied up in a bow, it will be coming to a screen near you. And we have a sneak peek. Are we going to do it like really fast?
Oh, hold on.
Oh. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, and okay. That's a sneak peek.
I feel like the housewives.
Oh, no, they would have like 20 of them already designed. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to show?
I really didn't. I have not been stitching because I've been working on my Rhinebeck sweater. Fall just means knitting for me. And I've also been very busy but I'm really looking forward to settling back into stitching. I feel like this little break has made me really want to get stuff done again.
Mhm.
And then listening to this, I'm so inspired. I don't even know where to go with the inspiration, but I'm so inspired by it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I am too. I'm so inspired just to keep learning for sure. And the shop is full, and enjoy. It's waiting for you. These are selling pretty fast. So if you wanted the
Which one is that?
this is the it's the Country Cottage Thread Autumn color pack that was on Expo. This is my little favorites collection of designs. It's got the 4 designs, and it's got one of the needle binders. Yeah, so grab that while you can. And I also did get the restock. I know if you emailed me, I got the restock with all the colors, so they're in. So grab those while you can.
I love those.
Okay, this is the heart. Okay, so this was at the very beginning of the show. There was, and this, they talked about ways that you can leave yourself behind when you pass this world, and really you can leave writing behind, you can leave your stitching behind. And there was a woman named Anne Plato, who's a poet and essayist. She's the second woman of color published in the United States. They said that she may have learned her needle skills from her mother, Deborah, who was a seamstress. Anne lived, worshiped, and taught in Hartford, Connecticut from approximately 1840 until 1847, but may have been born in the Long Island region. Like many white women and people of color, Anne then disappeared from the written record, but her words and her stitches remain. So they had a needlework picture that she did, and that's signed A.I. Plato, and the museum owns that. And then they had a poetry that a poem that she had written next to it called Forget Me Not. And I guess I could put, why don't I put the picture on the screen as our goodbye. I won't play the silly clown music.
Not appropriate today.
Not appropriate at all. And we will end with my rendition of Forget Me Not. Okay.
Thank you so much, Rachel. This was so interesting.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. We'll say goodbye right now, and we will share my screen.
That's amazing. This speaks to me in so many ways, I have to tell you, because if I did this today, I'd be like, it's weird. But you look at it, it's fabulous, right? It's like, and I think it speaks to like our imperfections again. Like we look at them as like, this is amazing to look at.
Look at the cornucopia on the right.
I know.
The fruits.
I know. It's amazing.
The house and the tree.
And the garden.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
The birds in the tree. I didn't even see the bird. There's 2 birds in that tree on the left.
It's just so primitive in so many ways, yet I see like it's whimsical in other ways. It's amazing.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for sharing that.
Signed A.I. Plato, 1823-24 is when they think she did this. Long Island, New York, or Hartford, they don't know. Silk, bast fiber, and paint. So some of it she painted.
Yeah, you can see that.
What do you think? The blue?
I'm also seeing that white in the sky.
Huh.
Blue, yes.
And look, she put her name like right front and center. Not in
Yeah,
the bottom corner.
It also looks like she stitched then painted.
Yeah. But interesting, like, don't forget me. I'm going to put my name like right on top. Right?
That's what I'm going to do for Ben Sampler.
Yeah.
Not.
Exactly.
Poor
Oh,
Ben.
funny.
He's so good. I shouldn't make fun of him. It's beautiful.
Okay, so here we go with the poem.